Okay, so today I'm going to be reviewing a film which is very different to the films that I normally review. It is a film called The Tree of Life, which came out last year, and it's directed by Terrence Malick. Um, the reason I was drawn to this film was because a lot of people told me that it was very similar in tone and in subject matter to Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I consider to be one of the greatest films of all time. And there are very few films that are like 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a very unique film in terms of the way the story's told, the way it's presented, the subjects that it deals with. So of course I was very much interested in seeing this film. Now that I have seen it, I think it's safe to say there are similarities between this film and 2001: A Space Odyssey, and you're going to have to forgive me if I make if I draw continuous parallels between the two films throughout this review. But I think they are very different films. To be honest, I'm not even sure if I like it or not. The Tree of Life. I watched it. I finished watching it maybe about an hour ago, and I've been still digesting it. And I think this is going to be a film that my opinion of will evolve over time, and I may come back to it in many years with different views. Of course, back to 2001. 2001 chronicled human evolution. That was the gist of that film. It chronicled man's mental and physical progression from the savage to the sacred, from like man's existence as primates in the Stone Age to well, it depends on whether you're more likely to side with the religious or the scientific argument. If you're religious, then the ending signified, man becoming one with God and with the infinite, with the greater existence. From the scientific side, it was man transcending his physical self. Now, whereas 2001 dealt with human evolution, this film, The Tree of Life, takes on more so just the evolution of the universe and what goes on within it. The way the story's structured, it is like 2001 in that it doesn't follow the conventional beginning, middle, end, build-up resolution, build-up conflict resolution type narrative of a story. It's set in three movements. That's the way I see it. You've got the first movement, which introduces you to the characters. It doesn't really follow any conventional plot. I mean, you see, like, Brad Pitt's family. They're dealing with some form of crisis. It's set in the 1950s. You don't know what the crisis is, but it's just, well, okay. I think it's hinted that it's the death of a brother or the death of a son or something like that. And it's just you seeing how they react to it. Then it cuts to many years later, where we see Brad Pitt's son, played by Mr. Jackass. I mean Sean Penn, and he it sort of sets the stage for the third act, which I'll get to in a minute. The second act's probably it feels brief, but it isn't really. It chronicles the actual birth of the universe and the development of it from there on. Like it shows you lots of very beautifully rendered celestial images of like the universe forming, the galaxies, the sun, the earth, the emergence of like single-celled organisms on the planet, and then into land animals and to the present day, basically. It's very interesting to watch. I'll go over the three acts after I've set them out first, because I like to discuss the plot at the beginning of the video. Then you've got the third act. That's the longest act. It takes up the whole the big chunk of the film, and it shows you Brad Pitt and his son in the 1950s, and it's just there's no conventional plot to it. It is literally just the child growing up, dealing with problems, encountering the typical questions that one comes across in life, and how the child responds to them. And then you also see his father going through a similar progression. So those are the three acts of the film if you're watching it, because I think it's good to have an idea of what you're expecting when you're watching this film, because I'll concede that it is a difficult film to watch. I didn't watch it all the way through. I watched the first part, then I took a break and watched the second part, because it is quite tiring, I think, especially just because there's no conventional plot, and it is just you watching a sequence of events, and you're not. I don't think it detracts much from watching it in chunks. I think you're forgiven for that. With regards to the human scenes, like the scenes involving like Brad Pitt's character and then his son, played by Sean Penn later on, the way I look at it is, everyone thinks back to their childhood from time to time, and it's sort of a weird experience when you do that, because the way you looked at the world was very different to the way you look at it now, and just that memory of how you looked on the world back then. I think this film does really well to capture that feeling of childhood that we all have in our minds somewhere, and I think it really is quite a powerful evocation of that feeling, and I think if you have time for it, then that feeling really is sort of resurrected in your mind. Then of course we have the scenes where it's like the formation of the universe, which I must say is really beautiful to watch. It's the way they rendered it was fantastic. In fact, I would even go so far as to say you lose yourself in it just a little, just with all these with all these images of the universe and all these vibrant colours. It really is an artistic triumph, I would say. The way it presents the story of the universe, it's sort of ambiguous about the idea of like science or God, basically. Like it doesn't show you a big bang as such. The way the universe forms, it just shows you like the sort of celestial whirling, the mirage of different colours and what have you, and the notion that they form together into suns and galaxies and what have you. This celestial sort of swirling in colours, you see it in two parts. You see it when the universe is supposed to have been, when they're trying to indicate the birth of the universe, and then when it goes to like on Earth and you see the emergence of like single-celled life forms. You see it like zooms into the nucleus of the single-celled life forms, and it shows you this mirage again, which I think is supposed to be indicative of, like, maybe if it's not a god, then it is sort of the spark of life, the spark that gave birth to the universe and then gave birth to life. Like, it's not a film that's just unrelentingly scientific. It is accepting of the metaphysical and the idea that there are things out with our understanding, and I think that it is deliberately ambiguous in what it conveys to be the birth of the universe and the creation of life on this planet. Two things that we don't know the answers to yet. We have theories, but we don't know the answers to. So I think the way that it depicted them as things that we can't understand, I think it was very good. I think it was very clever, and I certainly enjoyed thinking about it. I would say that the tone of this film, I don't know, I'm still kind of thinking about it, whether or not I thought it was good or not. It was definitely clever. The tone was sort of paradoxical. I thought it could either be saying two things. Like, obviously, when you're dealing with something like the birth of the universe, the evolution of the universe, the creation of life, this is a huge thing. There aren't many things bigger in scope than these things. Yet the tone of the film, I thought, was it was almost a tone of like saying, okay, here's the birth of the universe, here's the creation of life, here's the birth of galaxies. Yet it was almost a tone of insignificance, a tone of smallness, which I thought was strange. An example of this is that if you look at 2001: A Space Odyssey, obviously it was dealing with an equally large thing, like the very questions of humanity and where we came from. And the music that they used in that film, I'm just using this as an example. The music that they used was classical, and it was very rousing. It really did depict the grandiose of the issue that it was dealing with, and it was very powerful, and it really served the theme of the film well. But here, the music that they use, it's always kind of subtle. Like it's not really powerful. One example is when you see the sort of the birth of the universe, they use Mozart's Lacrimosa, which I think, it's very good. Obviously, I'm not in any way saying that it's not good as an artistic form in its own, but I think when you're dealing with something as powerful and as important as the birth of the universe, I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's the type of music that you'd want to use. But maybe that's the point. Maybe that's what the director's trying to say. I came to the conclusion that it's either saying two things by using this tone of smallness. It's either saying that human affairs are but a very small, infinitesimal occurrence in an infinitely large and complex universe. We're tiny, we're not important. We think we're important, but we're really not. Either it was saying that, or it was saying, we are important. We are just as important as all these huge celestial events that are going on. A relationship between human beings is just as important as a star being born. But also that also has a slightly nihilistic tone, in that means the universe as a whole is just meaningless. Which was it's very clever, I should say, but overall it does convey this tone of nihilism. Either we are tiny in the scope of the universe and hence unimportant, or we are just as important as everything else in the universe, but the universe is not important itself. So yeah, it contrasts 2001 very much, because 2001 was very supportive of the idea that human beings are sacred. We are very important in the eyes of the universe. So yeah, take from that what you will. I don't really want to talk at great length about this film, because I could probably go on for maybe about half an hour or so just talking about some of the ideas. I'm contemplating I might do a big proper review on it. Although don't hold out on that, I should warn you, because I'll probably be digesting this for quite some time. These are just basically notes. I was taking notes whilst I was watching the film so that I could do this, and I got a few things here and there, and I've selected them. Maybe one day I'll put them all into a video, but it might not be anytime soon. Obviously, the comparison between this and 2001, I think it's not as good as 2001. 2001 was just mesmerising and engrossing all the way through. Once you've put it on, even though there can be nothing, what appears to be nothing going on, you are engrossed. Your attention never falters, and it really taps into your mind. I think 2001. This, I don't think it does that as well. I think that's just maybe a discrepancies in the level of craftsmanship between Stanley Kubrick and Terrence Malick. Because I did have to watch this in chunks. If you can watch this the whole way through without taking a break, then kudos to you, because that is quite an achievement in my view. If you're going to watch it, I think just the mindset that you should be in is just think how I would review it. Whether it's positive, whether you would be positive or negative, I think that's the best way to watch a film like this. Just imagine how you would review it, what you would say if you were doing a review of it. I think that's the best advice I can give you if you're going to take on the task of watching it. I mean, the film gets you thinking, no doubt about that. I mean, with the issues that it raises, with the bigger questions, with the, I mean, if you don't ever question sometimes, where did I come from? How long has the universe been in existence? If you don't ever give yourself a headache thinking how can things be infinite, or how can time go on forever, how can time have gone on forever, this is the film for you. You really will enjoy it. As for the type of people I would recommend it to, I would say the people that are interested in those bigger questions. I mean, I would like to think that everyone asks themselves those questions from time to time, but I think if you're really interested in them, then this is a film for you. And if you like 2001: A Space Odyssey, then yes, you will be accustomed to this type of narrative. It's not a popcorn flick by any means. There are lots of people who will find this tedious and they'll just turn it off after about 5 minutes. And that's fine, if you're going to base your criticism of this film on the fact that it's boring, that it's tedious, then I fully accept that. But I'm just saying, to those that would enjoy this type of film, that do have patience for it, then I do wholeheartedly recommend it. To be honest, I'm not sure if I can give it a rating as such. I've not really thought it over that much, because I mean, it's really unlike anything else I've ever reviewed on here, because it just does not feel like a film at all. I mean, even 2001: A Space Odyssey had elements of a plot to it. It did have a coherent structure. Like, you went from dawn of man to man in the space age to then you had like the whole thing in Jupiter with like the HAL 9000, and then you had man beyond the infinite, like man's final evolutionary progression, and it was absolutely fantastic. So I could still call it a film, and it's one of my favourite films. It's a 10 out of 10, I would say. But with this, there is nothing that really says it's a film to me, so I'm not going to rate it as such. But bottom line, I would say I recommend it if you've got an eye for philosophical ideas. If you've got a lot of patience, I would have to say. Obviously, don't go in looking for a popcorn film. I mean, that's suffice to say. I would have to say it is an astounding achievement in terms of non-linear storytelling, and I found it fascinating to watch and very thought-provoking, and I'll be thinking about it for quite some time, which is not something that can be said about a lot of films. But of course, it is not for everyone.